Well, good morning. It's great to see you, and welcome back to the shop where this morning this little package was delivered. And if you've been following my channel at all for the last couple weeks, you've probably already figured out why I picked this up and what I'm going to use it for. You see, recently I've been busy installing and then refining a misting system for my AC unit on the outside of my house. Basically, the idea of a system like this is that as the water vapor gets sucked into the unit along with air, as you see happening here, it's going to cool down the fins and coils, resulting in less energy being used and lowering my energy bill, at least in theory. But what would a misting system be without water? And the question remains, how much water am I using, and is the cost of that water offsetting any savings I'm realizing in reducing my power consumption? And I've estimated the water usage costing me about 50 cents a day, but I'm not really sure. So I bought this water meter and we're going to install it to see if we can't find out. So stick around and I'll show you how we do that. Okay, I came back in the shop to grab a couple tools to help us with the install. I think we're just going to need a couple of pliers, but let's dig into this box and see what they sent us, see if there's anything else we need. We got some instructions here. We'll read those. And got a little packet here. Looks like there's a battery that we can put that in place. I think it goes in like that. Okay. And then let's see if we get any. Yeah, we have power. Okay, good enough. Let's go out and put this thing in place. Okay, I have turned the misting system off with my switch here, because I don't feel like getting wet back here with that mist while I put this in place. And I've also added another post here and just sort of zip tied the filter to that so that it's just a little bit more stable, if you will. So I think what I'm going to do is that it shows that the flow goes this way. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this where this is, and then I'm going to put this right here. So I know this is on pretty tight because I didn't want any leaks, so I'm going to use this to just loosen it up. Put this on, tighten it up a little bit, and then just reinstall that, and we should be good. Let's turn this back on and see if we've got any leaks. And this is our gallons per minute right here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's 0.0 right now. I'm going to check back in 10 minutes, or whenever this unit turns off, whichever comes first, and we'll see if we've got any reading there. All right, it has been about 16 minutes. I kind of lost track of time, and turned this on, and we still are showing 0 for a single use, 0 gallons per minute, 0 on the average, and 0 on the total. Again, I don't expect the average to show anything because it hasn't been that long. That shows daily average, but we should have something showing for total, at least something, I would think. So I'm going to let this go just a little bit longer and come back and check it in a little bit. But let me turn this back on and we'll go for another 10 minutes. All right, it's been almost half an hour now, 27 minutes total. Coming back to our meter to see if we have anything to show for our efforts here. I'm just going to turn that off. Still 0 on the single flow rate and the gallons per minute. Nothing on the average. Wouldn't expect that because that measures in days. And then the total is still 0, so nothing at this point. And we can see that it's working because the mist is coming out. And so it's either one of two things. Either the meter itself is faulty and isn't working, but is allowing the water to go through, or the amount of water that's going through is so small that it really can't measure it at this point, either in the total or the amount that's going through. So you can see it's 0.0, that it measures it to the 10th of a gallon. And so if only hundredths of a gallon or even thousandths of a gallon is going through, it's not going to show that yet, but I would think that eventually it would start showing up in the totals, and then finally, it would show up in the average, the daily average. So the first thing I think we want to do is to turn this off, take this meter out, and put it on a hose and run some flow through it to see if it's working or not. If it's not working, well, there's our answer. We've got a faulty meter. If it is working, then I think we just need a longer test time to see what our results are. So let's take this off and see what's going on. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken the meter off. I've installed it on this hose, and I put a nozzle here so that we can control the flow a little bit and see what's going on. I already tested it, so I know what's going on. But here's what I'm finding. So when I go to the single use, I can see that it's starting to measure. When I go to gallons per minute, I can see that it's measuring that as I lay off of this. To the point where there's just a trickle. Then I get 0. But there's still water coming out there. So it measures 0. Now, if I move this all the way over to the totals average, I get the total accumulated amount. So it appears that the meter is not faulty. It appears that the meter is working. The question is whether or not the amount going through is so small that it really can't measure it right now, and we just need to wait for a longer time period to see what shows up in the total amount. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to reinstall it, and we're going to give it some time. Okay, so that has been reinstalled. The misting system is operational right now. It's working as the unit is on, and we're just going to leave it. I'll come back in a day or so and see if we see any results at all. Again, I wouldn't expect anything in the flow rate, but we should start seeing some totals accumulating, I would think, over time. So we'll leave it for the time being, hope for the best, and come back in a little while. Okay, it is Saturday afternoon, about 2 days after we last checked this meter, and it has been installed, and the system's been running as it should for the last couple days. It's on right now, so this is a good chance to check and see if we've got any change at all. So I'm going to turn this meter on. We're going to see what we've got. And right now it shows 0.0 for a single use, which isn't surprising because that's what it showed before. Let's see if it shows any flow rate. It shows 0.0 gallons per minute, which is the same as we got before. We know that this meter works because we did take it off and test it, as you recall. So let's go to, wow, okay, so there we go. The gallons per day is 0.2. So the average gallons per day actually does show some usage at 0.2 of a gallon per day, and it's been 2 days. So math would tell me that the total amount should be, and there it is, 0.4. So it's been 2 days at 0.2 of a gallon per day. That's 0.4 of a gallon, and that is correct. So it appears that the amount going through this meter is so minute, so de minimis, that it really can't measure it. It goes out to, not just tenths of a gallon, but hundredths of a gallon, maybe even thousandths of a gallon per minute, and it can't really measure that, or it doesn't really show up because it only shows to the tenth measurement. But it does keep track of the total amount, and it knows how many days this has been going since it had been reset, which is 2. So it's able to keep track of the total amount, and that gives us a pretty good idea. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't really know how much is going through at any given time, but over the course of a day, I know that 0.2 is going through, and over the course of the 2 days, 0.4 total. And that is a whole lot less than I had ever calculated on my sort of back of the napkin calculation that brought me to a 50 cent per day total cost. So I'm going to call that a win. But of course, we're going to check it with our water bill when we get it, and make sure that our usage isn't abnormally high. One of the other things that I thought we'd address while we're here, and I noticed it the other day, the misting is getting certain parts. This dark area here and over here is getting good coverage, but up here, not so much. On the corners, not so much. And as I go around, you know, here on the corner and over here and up here is not getting a lot of mist. So I've got some extra hose, and I've got some additional nozzles that I purchased, and I think we're gonna reconfigure these, add some more nozzles where we don't see that we're getting much coverage, and feel a lot better about that now because it doesn't seem like we're using that much water. Obviously, I guess common sense would say the more nozzles you have, the more openings that you have, the more water you're going to use. So I think we can afford it, at least according to what we just saw at 0.2 of a gallon per day. So let's put these on and see if that makes any difference in the coverage. All right, so I've put an additional 7 or 8 nozzles on this, and as you can see, I've kind of wound them all the way through here to try to get, you know, the most comprehensive coverage that I can get. And put 2 on the back where before I only had 1. I've got 4 on this side, some on the corner. I've got 2 on the front, or 4 on the front instead of just 2. I've got a couple on the corner here, and I've got 4 or 5 here on this side where before I just had 2. So I think we're getting better coverage. Let's check our meter and see what we're getting. We're still at 0.0 gallons per minute, so it doesn't look like we're using that much more water, if really any. That is certainly not measurable. Well, again, we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll report our findings as we go along. But that should about do it for this little project. So we got a couple things accomplished. We put the meter in. We made sure that that was working. We got some really good results on that. I never would have expected it to be that low. And we put some additional nozzles on. So we made some progress today, and I want to thank you guys for sticking with me as I did this. Certainly, if you found this interesting and entertaining, feel free to comment, give me a like, subscribe. That would be a big help to the channel. And we will see you in the next one.